For 2 years, Amazon driver Mike delivered packages to 1247 Maple Street every single week. The customers always left 5-star reviews and generous tips, but when his supervisor checked the address on Google Maps, they discovered something impossible. The house at 1247 Maple Street burned down 3 years before Mike even started working for Amazon. My name is Marcus, and today I'm going to tell you a story that will make you question everything you think you know about the world around us. It's a story about routine, about technology, and about the thin line between what we see and what's actually there. Mike Rodriguez had been an Amazon delivery driver for 3 years. He was 34 years old, married with 2 kids, and he took pride in his work. Mike wasn't just delivering packages. He was connecting people to the things they needed, the things they wanted, the things that made their lives better. He had one of the highest customer satisfaction ratings in his district. His route covered the suburban neighborhoods of Riverside, California, where tree-lined streets were filled with middle-class families who appreciated a reliable delivery driver. Before I tell you what Amazon discovered when they investigated Mike's delivery records, you need to understand something about 1247 Maple Street. Mike wasn't just delivering random packages. He was delivering very specific items: birthday cakes, prescription medications, and children's toys. Items that suggested a family was still living there. Items that required signatures from people who shouldn't exist. Mike knew his customers. He knew that Mrs. Patterson at 1156 Oak Avenue always ordered cat food on Tuesdays. He knew that the Johnson family at 892 Pine Street got weekly deliveries of art supplies for their daughter's homeschool projects. And he knew that 1247 Maple Street was his absolute favorite stop. The house at 1247 Maple Street was a charming 2-story home with blue shutters and a white picket fence. There was always a golden retriever named Max who would greet Mike at the gate, tail wagging enthusiastically. The Henderson family, David, Sarah, and their twins Emma and Jake, were the kind of customers every delivery driver dreamed of having. They ordered something almost every week. Sometimes it was birthday party supplies, sometimes prescription medications, sometimes toys for the kids. Whatever it was, the Hendersons were always grateful. They left 5-star reviews without fail, often adding personal notes like, "Mike is the best driver ever," or "Thank you for always being so careful with our packages." More than that, they treated Mike like family. During the summer, Sarah Henderson would leave bottles of ice-cold water on the porch with a note, "For our hard-working delivery heroes." During the holidays, there was always a plate of homemade cookies. When Mike's own daughter was sick last winter, Mrs. Henderson had somehow heard about it and left a get-well card addressed to his family. Mike had been delivering to 1247 Maple Street for exactly 2 years, and it had become the highlight of his route. The house represented everything good about his job: grateful customers, regular income, and genuine human connection in an increasingly digital world. Every delivery to 1247 Maple Street followed the same pleasant routine. Mike would pull up in his Amazon van, and Max would immediately start barking excitedly from behind the white picket fence. Mike would grab the package from the back of his van, walk up the stone pathway, and ring the doorbell. David Henderson would usually answer the door. He was a man in his early 40s, always wearing a friendly smile and a "World's Best Dad" t-shirt that looked like it had been through 1,000 washes. Sometimes it would be Sarah, a kindergarten teacher with kind eyes who always asked about Mike's family. The twins, Emma and Jake, were about 8 years old and would often peek around their parents' legs to see what package Mike had brought. They had made him a drawing once, a stick figure labeled Mike the Package Man, standing next to their house. It was still taped to his dashboard. The handoff was always smooth. David or Sarah would sign Mike's handheld scanner, usually adding a smiley face next to their signature. They would chat for a minute or two about the weather, about the kids, about life in general. It was the kind of small talk that made Mike's job feel meaningful. But what Mike didn't know was that every time he walked up that stone pathway, every time he rang that doorbell, every time he handed over a package and collected a signature, his Amazon scanner was recording GPS coordinates that placed him in the middle of Roosevelt Park, 3 blocks away from any residential address. What Mike didn't know was that the photographs his scanner automatically took for delivery confirmation showed him standing in front of charred ruins and burned trees, not a charming house with blue shutters. What Mike didn't know was that according to every database, every public record, and every satellite image available to Amazon's logistics system, the house at 1247 Maple Street had been destroyed in a fire on September 15, 2019, taking the Henderson family with it. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning in March 2024. Mike's supervisor, Janet Walsh, was reviewing delivery efficiency reports when she noticed something unusual. One address on Mike's route had an impossibly high success rate, 100% positive deliveries over 2 years, with 0 failed attempts, 0 customer complaints, and 0 delivery exceptions. In the Amazon delivery world, such perfection was virtually impossible. Every driver dealt with missed deliveries, package theft, wrong addresses, or customers who weren't home. But 1247 Maple Street was different. Every single delivery was marked as successful, every customer interaction was rated 5 stars, and every package was confirmed as received. Janet had been managing delivery drivers for 8 years, and she'd never seen statistics like this. Curious, she decided to pull up the address on Google Maps to see what made this location so special. What she saw made her blood run cold. The satellite image showed an empty lot covered in ash and debris. There was no house at 1247 Maple Street. There was no blue-shuttered home with a white picket fence. There was just burned ground where a structure used to stand. Janet refreshed the page, thinking it might be an outdated image. The timestamp showed the satellite photo was taken just 2 months ago. She switched to Street View, which showed the same thing, a vacant lot with no trespassing signs and yellow caution tape around the perimeter. Now here's where this gets absolutely terrifying. When Amazon's security team reviewed Mike's handheld scanner data, they found something that made no sense. Every delivery to 1247 Maple Street showed GPS coordinates that placed Mike in the middle of a city park. Not at a house, not at a street address, but standing in an empty field where children play soccer. Yet Mike's delivery confirmations showed satisfied customers and successful handoffs. Janet immediately called the IT department. "I need you to pull all delivery data for driver Mike Rodriguez, Route 247, address 1247 Maple Street," she said, her voice tight with concern. The IT specialist, Tom Chen, had been with Amazon for 5 years and thought he'd seen every kind of delivery glitch possible. "What kind of problem are we looking at?" he asked. "The kind that shouldn't exist," Janet replied. Within an hour, Tom had compiled a comprehensive report. The data was even more disturbing than Janet had feared. For 2 years, Mike had been making weekly deliveries to 1247 Maple Street. His scanner recorded GPS coordinates of 34.0224 DGN, 117.3756 DGW, which placed him directly in the center of Roosevelt Park, a public recreation area with no residential addresses. But that wasn't the strangest part. Tom discovered that Mike's delivery scanner had been automatically photographing every delivery for proof of completion. Company policy required these photos to protect both drivers and customers from delivery disputes. Tom opened the photo files from 1247 Maple Street deliveries, expecting to see images of Mike standing on a front porch or doorstep. Instead, every photo showed Mike standing in what appeared to be a burned lot, surrounded by charred tree stumps and ash-covered ground. In many photos, Mike appeared to be handing packages to empty air and shaking hands with nobody.
"This is impossible," Tom muttered, scrolling through 2 years of identical photos. These images show Mike making deliveries to a burned-down property, but his scanner logs show successful handoffs with customer signatures. Tom pulled up the signature records. Every delivery to 1247 Maple Street had been signed for by either David Henderson or Sarah Henderson. The signatures were consistent, appearing to be written by real people rather than forged or automated. But according to property records, the Henderson family had died in a house fire at 1247 Maple Street on September 15, 2019. David Henderson, age 41. Sarah Henderson, age 38. Emma Henderson, age 8. Jake Henderson, age 8. All 4 family members had perished when an electrical fault caused their home to burst into flames at 2:17 a.m. The house had been completely destroyed. The lot had been cleared and left vacant due to soil contamination from the fire. No structure had been built on the property since the fire. No one lived at 1247 Maple Street. Yet Mike had been delivering packages there every week for 2 years. Janet decided to confront Mike directly. She called him into her office the next morning, laying out printouts of the GPS data, delivery photos, and property records across her desk. "Mike, I need to ask you about 1247 Maple Street," she began carefully. Mike's face lit up immediately. "Oh, the Hendersons. They're amazing customers. Just yesterday I delivered birthday party supplies for the twins. Mrs. Henderson left me the nicest thank you note." Janet felt a chill run down her spine. "Mike, I need you to look at these photos." She handed him a stack of delivery confirmation pictures from his own scanner. Mike studied the images, his smile slowly fading. "These aren't right," he said finally. "This isn't what I see when I make deliveries there." "What do you see, Mike?" "I see a beautiful 2-story house with blue shutters, white picket fence, stone walkway, well-maintained lawn. There's always a golden retriever named Max who greets me at the gate." Janet showed him the Google Maps satellite image. "Mike, this is what's actually at that address. This is what your GPS coordinates show. This is what your camera has been photographing for 2 years. Mike stared at the images of the burned lot, his hands shaking slightly. "That's not possible. I was just there yesterday. I talked to Mr. Henderson. He asked about my daughter's piano recital. Mike, the Henderson family died in a fire 3 years ago. The house burned down. There's no structure at that address." "But I have their signatures," Mike protested. "I have customer reviews. They gave me a Christmas card last year." Janet pulled up Mike's delivery records on her computer. "Mike, according to our system, every delivery you made to 1247 Maple Street shows you standing in Roosevelt Park. Your GPS coordinates place you in an empty field. Your photos show you handing packages to nobody." Mike looked at the evidence spread across Janet's desk. The GPS data, the photographs, the property records, the death certificates. Everything pointed to the same impossible conclusion. He had been making deliveries to a family that didn't exist, at a house that wasn't there. "I don't understand," Mike whispered. "They were so nice to me. They cared about my family. How could they not be real?" But the most chilling discovery came when Amazon pulled Mike's delivery photos. Company policy requires drivers to photograph every delivery for proof of completion. For 2 years, Mike had been taking photos at 1247 Maple Street. But when the security team opened those files, every single photo showed Mike standing in front of a charred foundation
with burned trees in the background. Yet Mike swore he was taking pictures of packages on a front porch. Amazon's corporate policy required any driver experiencing reality distortion incidents to undergo immediate medical and psychological evaluation. Mike was placed on administrative leave while a team of specialists tried to determine what had happened. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison, a neurologist at Riverside Medical Center, conducted a comprehensive examination of Mike's brain function. MRI scans, cognitive tests, and neurological assessments all came back completely normal. There's no evidence of hallucinations, delusions, or any neurological condition that would cause Mike to perceive things that aren't there, Dr. Morrison reported to Amazon's Human Resources Department. Dr. Sarah Kim, a psychiatrist specializing in occupational stress disorders, interviewed Mike extensively about his experiences at 1247 Maple Street. Mike's descriptions are remarkably consistent and detailed, Dr. Kim noted in her report. He can describe the Henderson family's physical appearance, their personalities, their daily routines, even their pets. These aren't vague hallucinations. They're comprehensive, coherent experiences that Mike genuinely believes to be real. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery came when Dr. Kim asked Mike to draw a picture of the Henderson house. His sketch showed perfect architectural detail, window placement, door positions, the exact layout of the front porch. When investigators compared Mike's drawing to the original house plans from before the fire, they matched exactly. Mike had somehow drawn an accurate blueprint of a house he had never seen, that had been destroyed before he started working for Amazon. The fact that Mike could draw an accurate blueprint of a house he had never seen sent shockwaves through Amazon's investigation team. How does someone sketch the exact architectural details of a building that was destroyed before they ever worked in the area? Dr. Kim decided to dig deeper. She asked Mike to describe other details about the Henderson family that weren't related to the house itself. "Tell me about their daily routines," she said during their third session. Mike's eyes lit up. "Well, Mr. Henderson works from home. He's a freelance graphic designer. He always takes his coffee break at exactly 10:30 a.m. and comes out to chat when I deliver packages around that time." Dr. Kim made notes. "What about Mrs. Henderson?" "She's a kindergarten teacher at Riverside Elementary. She leaves for work every morning at 7:45 a.m. in a blue Honda Civic. She always waves when she sees me on her way out. And the children, Emma and Jake, are twins, 8 years old. They're homeschooled on Fridays. Emma loves art supplies. We deliver new crayons and sketch pads all the time. Jake is obsessed with dinosaurs. Last month, they ordered a huge T-Rex model kit." Dr. Kim felt a chill. Everything Mike described was impossibly specific for hallucinations. But when she checked with Riverside Elementary School, they confirmed that Sarah Henderson had indeed been a kindergarten teacher there, until her death in 2019. When Amazon confronted Mike with the evidence, he insisted they were wrong. He described the house in perfect detail. Blue shutters, white picket fence, a golden retriever named Max who always greeted him at the gate. He even knew the family's names, the Hendersons. But when investigators checked property records, they discovered that the Henderson family had died in the house fire 3 years ago, all 4 of them. Amazon's security department decided to take extraordinary measures. They installed a GPS tracking device in Mike's delivery van and arranged for a surveillance team to follow him during his next delivery to 1247 Maple Street. On Thursday morning, Mike received his regular delivery assignment. Among the packages was a birthday gift addressed to Emma Henderson, 1247 Maple Street, an art supply kit that someone had ordered online. The surveillance team consisted of 2 investigators, Marcus Webb, a former police detective, and Lisa Park, a tech specialist with expertise in GPS systems and video analysis. They followed Mike's van from a distance as he made his morning deliveries. Everything appeared normal until Mike approached the area around Maple Street. Webb watched through binoculars as Mike's van slowed down and pulled over. "He's stopping," Webb radioed to Park, who was monitoring the GPS data from their surveillance vehicle. "That's impossible," Park replied, staring at her screen. "According to his GPS signal, he just stopped in the middle of Roosevelt Park. There's no street there, no parking area. He should be sitting in an open field." Webb adjusted his binoculars. Through the lenses, he could see Mike's van clearly parked on what appeared to be a residential street. Mike was getting out of the van, grabbing a package from the back, and walking toward what Webb could only describe as empty air. "Lisa, are you seeing this?" Webb whispered into his radio. "Marcus, according to every satellite system we have access to, Mike is standing in a park. But I can see him through my binoculars walking up to something. I can see him walking, but I can't see what he's walking toward." Webb continued watching in fascination and horror. Mike appeared to be walking up an invisible pathway. He stopped, appeared to ring an invisible doorbell, and waited. After a moment, he seemed to hand the package to someone Webb couldn't see. Mike was clearly having a conversation with empty air. Webb could see him smiling, nodding, gesturing with his hands the way people do during friendly small talk. After about 3 minutes, Mike appeared to collect a signature on his handheld scanner, waved goodbye to nobody, and walked back to his van. Park checked the delivery confirmation on her laptop. "Marcus, the system just recorded a successful delivery. Customer signature, David Henderson. 5-star rating with a note. Thank you, Mike, for always being so wonderful." When Mike returned to the Amazon facility that afternoon, he was immediately called into a meeting with Janet Walsh, the security team, and Dr. Kim. "Mike, we need to talk about what happened at 1247 Maple Street today," Janet began. "It was a great delivery," Mike replied enthusiastically. "Emma loved her art supplies. Mr. Henderson mentioned that they're planning a family vacation to Disneyland next month." Marcus Webb leaned forward. "Mike, I was watching you during that delivery. Can you tell me exactly what you saw?" "I saw what I always see. The house with the blue shutters, the white picket fence, Max running around in the front yard. The Hendersons were having a barbecue in their backyard. I could smell the hamburgers cooking." Webb exchanged glances with the others. "Mike, our surveillance equipment showed you standing in an empty field. Our GPS data placed you in Roosevelt Park. You appeared to be talking to nobody." Mike's expression grew confused and frustrated. "But that's not what happened. I was at their house. I talked to Mr. Henderson. I gave Emma her package. They invited me to stay for lunch, but I told them I had to finish my route." Dr. Kim spoke up. "Mike, is it possible that what you're experiencing isn't real? That your mind is creating these interactions?" "How can it not be real?" Mike demanded. "I have their signatures. I have their thank you notes. They know about my family. Mrs. Henderson asked about my daughter's school play last week." Janet pulled out a folder. "Mike, we've been investigating the Henderson family. They died in a house fire 3 years ago. Their house was completely destroyed. The lot has been empty ever since." Mike stared at the death certificates and fire department reports. "This is wrong. You're all wrong. I know these people. They're my friends." That evening, Lisa Park made a discovery that would change everything about the investigation. While reviewing the GPS data from Mike's van, she noticed something unusual about the signal patterns. Every time Mike approached 1247 Maple Street, his GPS coordinates would become erratic for exactly 7 minutes. The signal would jump between his actual location in Roosevelt Park and coordinates that corresponded to where 1247 Maple Street used to be before the fire. But the strangest part was that during those 7 minutes, Park's equipment detected a secondary GPS signal emanating from the same location. It was as if two devices were occupying the same space: Mike's scanner and something else. Park ran the signal through various analysis programs, trying to identify the source of the secondary signal. What she found made her question everything she thought she knew about technology. The secondary signal appeared to be coming from a device that was registered to David Henderson, a device that had been reported destroyed in the 2019 house fire. A device that should not exist. According to the signal data, David Henderson's smartphone was active at 1247 Maple Street, connecting to cell towers, sending and receiving data, just as it would if David Henderson were still alive and using it. But David Henderson had been dead for 3 years. Park stared at her computer screen, unable to process what she was seeing. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself. "Dead people don't use smartphones." But the data didn't lie. Every time Mike made a delivery to 1247 Maple Street, David Henderson's phone came online. And according to the app usage data Park had accessed, David Henderson had been leaving 5-star reviews for Mike's deliveries from beyond the grave. Lisa Park couldn't sleep that night. The data on her screen defied everything she understood about technology, death, and reality itself. She decided to dig deeper into David Henderson's phone activity. What she discovered made her hands shake. David Henderson's smartphone had been active every single day since his supposed death. The phone was receiving emails, downloading app updates, and even making online purchases. According to the data, David Henderson had been living a completely normal digital life for 3 years after dying in a house fire. But the most disturbing discovery was in his Amazon account. David Henderson had been ordering packages, leaving reviews, and even chatting with customer service representatives. His account showed 2 years of 5-star reviews for Mike the delivery driver, with comments like, "Always professional and friendly," and "Best delivery service ever." What I'm about to tell you next will make you question everything you think you know about life and death. Because Mike wasn't the only Amazon driver delivering to addresses that didn't exist. When the company launched a full investigation, they discovered 847 drivers across the country who had been making regular deliveries to houses that had been destroyed years earlier. And every single one of those drivers described the same thing: grateful families who left perfect reviews and always said thank you. Amazon's corporate headquarters in Seattle received Lisa Park's report on a Friday morning. Within hours, the company had launched the largest internal investigation in its history. The Anomalous Delivery Task Force, as it came to be known internally, consisted of data analysts, GPS specialists, and behavioral psychologists. Their mission was simple: find every driver who might be experiencing what Mike Rodriguez had experienced. The results were staggering. Across the United States, 847 Amazon drivers had been making regular deliveries to addresses that didn't exist. The pattern was identical in every case: destroyed houses, dead families, impossible customer satisfaction ratings, and drivers who insisted they were interacting with real people. Dr. Sarah Chen, a quantum physicist brought in to consult on the investigation, reviewed the data with growing amazement. "This isn't isolated incidents," she told the task force. "This is a systematic phenomenon. Something is allowing deceased individuals to maintain a presence in our reality, specifically for the purpose of receiving deliveries." In Phoenix, driver Maria Santos had been delivering to the Kowalski family for 18 months. The Kowalskis had died in a car accident 2 years earlier, but Maria described them as the sweetest elderly couple who always offered me lemonade. In Denver, driver James Wilson regularly delivered to 847 Pine Avenue, where the Miller family supposedly lived. The Miller family had perished in a carbon monoxide leak 3 years ago, but James knew their children's names, their favorite foods, and their weekend routines. In Miami, driver Angela Rodriguez made weekly deliveries to a beachfront condo that had been destroyed by Hurricane Ian. The residents, the Carlson family, had died in the storm, but Angela described them as wonderful people who were always concerned about my safety during bad weather. Every case followed the same pattern. Perfect customer relationships with people who were dead, deliveries to addresses that were destroyed, and drivers who genuinely believed they were helping real families. Dr. Chen assembled a team of researchers to study the phenomenon. They installed monitoring equipment in delivery vehicles, tracked GPS anomalies, and interviewed dozens of affected drivers. What they discovered challenged fundamental assumptions about consciousness, death, and the nature of reality itself. The drivers aren't hallucinating, Dr. Chen reported to Amazon executives. They're experiencing genuine interactions with what appears to be residual consciousness from deceased individuals. The monitoring equipment revealed that during these impossible deliveries, electromagnetic readings spiked dramatically. GPS signals became unstable. Temperature dropped by an average of 15 degrees. And in some cases, the equipment detected voices and sounds that the drivers claimed to be hearing. We're not dealing with mental illness or technology malfunctions, Dr. Chen continued. We're dealing with something that exists in the space between life and death. These families seem to have maintained enough consciousness to continue their relationships with delivery drivers. Dr. Chen's team discovered that the phenomenon only occurred with drivers who had developed genuine personal relationships with the deceased families. Drivers who treated customers as friends, who remembered personal details, who went beyond their job requirements. It's as if gratitude and human connection have somehow anchored these families to our reality, Dr. Chen theorized. Their appreciation for these drivers has created a bridge between life and death. Amazon's board of directors met in emergency session to discuss the findings. The implications were enormous. Proof of life after death, evidence that consciousness could survive physical destruction, documentation of supernatural phenomena occurring during routine business operations. We can't release this information to the public, said CEO Andy Jassy during a classified video conference. It would fundamentally alter society's understanding of death and reality. The religious, philosophical, and scientific implications are too vast to comprehend. The board voted unanimously to classify the entire investigation. All data was sealed. All researchers signed non-disclosure agreements, and all affected drivers were quietly reassigned to different routes. Mike Rodriguez was offered early retirement with full benefits and a generous severance package. The condition was simple. He could never speak publicly about his experiences at 1247 Maple Street. But what about the Hendersons? Mike asked during his final meeting with Janet Walsh. What happens to them now? Janet looked at the classified reports on her desk. According to our investigation, Mike, they'll be fine. They have each other, and they have their memories of a delivery driver who treated them like family. Mike accepted the retirement package, but he never forgot the Henderson family. Sometimes, late at night, he would drive past Roosevelt Park and wonder if somewhere, in a place between worlds, David and Sarah Henderson were still waiting for their next delivery. Within 6 months, Amazon had quietly reassigned all 847 affected drivers to new routes. The official explanation was route optimization for improved efficiency. None of the drivers were told about the broader investigation. Mike Rodriguez retired to a small house in Palm Springs, California. He used his severance package to start an online business selling handmade crafts. But Mike never stopped thinking about the Henderson family. On quiet evenings, he would sit on his back porch and wonder what had really happened during those 2 years of deliveries to 1247 Maple Street. Mike's wife, Rosa, noticed that he would sometimes stare at his old Amazon scanner, which still contained delivery records from the impossible address. Dr. Sarah Chen continued her research in private, funded by an undisclosed source. She established a small laboratory in Northern California where she studied the intersection of consciousness, technology, and death. Chen had saved copies of the Amazon data before the company sealed everything. Her research led her to a startling conclusion. Human consciousness, when combined with strong emotional connections, could persist after physical death. Gratitude appears to be the key, Chen wrote in her private research notes. The families who maintained contact with delivery drivers all shared one trait: genuine appreciation for human kindness. Their thankfulness anchored part of their consciousness to our reality. Through her research, Chen discovered that the Henderson family had died trying to save their neighbors during the fire. David had run back into the burning house 3 times to help evacuate elderly residents. Sarah had died shielding her children while helping others escape. This pattern held true for all the deceased families. Every family that had maintained contact with delivery drivers had died while helping others, or had been known for exceptional community service. It's as if their goodness in life created enough spiritual momentum to allow them to continue giving and receiving kindness after death, Chen concluded. 2 years after retirement, Mike received an unexpected phone call. A voice asked if he would make one final delivery, not for Amazon, but for a private research organization studying his case. Mike agreed. On a warm Tuesday morning in October 2026, exactly 4 years after his last official delivery to 1247 Maple Street, Mike drove to Roosevelt Park. He carried a small package containing a thank you note he had written to the Henderson family. Mike stood in the center of the park, at the GPS coordinates that had once confused Amazon's tracking systems. He closed his eyes and spoke to the empty air. David, Sarah, Emma, Jake, if you can hear me, I want you to know that knowing you was the best part of my job. You made me feel like I was doing something important. Thank you for being my friends. Mike placed the package on the ground. A gentle breeze rustled nearby leaves, and for just a moment, Mike could have sworn he heard distant children laughing and a dog barking. When he returned to his car, Mike felt a peace he hadn't experienced in years. He had said goodbye. Official Amazon records show that driver Mike Rodriguez had an exemplary career with 0 customer complaints and a 98.7% satisfaction rating. There is no mention in any official document of deliveries to 1247 Maple Street or the 847 other drivers who experienced similar phenomena. But in a small research facility in Northern California, Dr. Sarah Chen continues studying the data. She has documented over 2,000 cases of delivery drivers and service professionals who reported ongoing relationships with deceased customers. Chen believes that human kindness creates connections that transcend death itself. In her final research paper, she wrote, "Love, gratitude, and genuine human connection appear to be the most powerful forces in the universe. They can bridge the gap between life and death, between the possible and the impossible. Mike Rodriguez still lives in Palm Springs. Sometimes, when he sees Amazon delivery trucks in his neighborhood, he waves to the drivers and remembers a family that taught him the true meaning of customer service. And sometimes, late at night, he swears he can still hear Max barking in the distance.